Hey everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Titus. Now, if you're thinking about getting a new plant, or you've already got a plant, or you have already bought several plants but have no idea as to how to look after them, then this video is for you. So in this video, I want to give you guys some basic tips in relation to looking after plants. So let's get started. So the first tip I'm going to give you guys is about not overwatering. Okay, oftentimes we think that if we get a plant, that the first thing that it requires is a lot of water. Okay, so plants actually want to firstly have their soil dry out properly most of the times, and then later on get watered. Otherwise, if you keep overwatering, then oftentimes that will cause root rot. And early signs of root rot is usually yellowing of the leaves. So if you don't want to kill your first plant that you buy, try not to overwater, especially during cold season. The next tip that I want to give you guys is about not over fertilizing, or rather not fertilizing your new plants straight away. Okay, so if you over fertilize, or rather you fertilize straight away, especially if it's not within that season that you're supposed to be fertilizing a plant during summer or spring, then often the leaves can have black patches on them, like this one. So if you guys over fertilize, that's what's going to happen to the leaves, and often that can spread out as well. So try to make sure that you don't fertilize straight away. Usually the nurseries where you buy those plants from have enough fertilizer in them to last them for 6 months. You should only really be fertilizing during spring and summer season as well. Now the third tip that I want to give you guys is not repotting your new plants straight away. So when you buy a new plant, you want to just make sure that they're well root bound and actually growing really well. And if you notice that your plant is perhaps having yellowing on the leaves and starting to have that lower part of the leaves fall off, and or if it's actually not growing, then maybe it is time to firstly check the roots. Now you want to make sure that the root is actually quite bound down at the bottom. Otherwise, if you repot it straight away, sometimes it could cause more damage rather than help it. Alright, the next tip that I'm going to give you when looking after a plant, or rather if it's an indoor plant especially, is about making sure that you don't put it in direct sunlight. Now, a lot of people think that if a plant starts to have a little bit of yellowing or sort of a lighter color to the leaf, that maybe it lacks sunlight, and then they end up putting it in direct sunlight, and what that actually does is it actually burns the surface of the leaf and therefore causing more damage. A lot of the times indoor plants, or a lot of the plants, don't actually like having that direct sunlight all the time. So the best way to actually look after your plants is in a shady place. If you want to maintain that sort of healthy look, like this obtusophilia, I don't know if you guys can see there properly, it's not really showing properly, there you go, then you want to make sure that you're keeping it away from direct sunlight. Obviously it does want really bright indirect sunlight, but not direct sunlight. Next tip that I'm going to give you guys is about buying new plants. I wouldn't suggest buying a really expensive plant straight away. Okay, so I live here in Australia, and I would probably recommend, if you can start off with those little bottle baby $5 plants to start off with, and then learning how to properly look after those, and then moving on to something more medium sized like a $10 plant before you actually purchase something really expensive and regret it later if you kill it. Alright, so if you can possibly, maybe perhaps ask some of your family and or friends for some free cuttings of different plants that you can propagate, and then start off with that. The different types of plant that you can often start with that are really easy to look after are succulents, indoor plants, and really hardy kind of plants, like again the things that I have here. So I've got there at the back Devil's Ivy or Golden Pothos. I have here a cast iron plant. I've got the Peperomia obtusifolia, if that's how you say it. I've got some succulents outside as well, which is what I started with. And they're really easy to look after because oftentimes those plants don't actually require a lot of attention. They don't require a lot of sunlight, they don't require a lot of water, and they don't require a lot of attention, to be honest with you. Okay, I might make a separate video of the different types of plant that you can start with, but with regards to buying new plants, don't buy anything too expensive. Start off with something small and then help that little plant grow into something much more bigger and fuller. The next tip that I'm gonna give you guys is making sure that the plants that you guys get is safe for your whole family. Okay, if you have pets, if you have kids, potentially some of the indoor plants that you could be getting could be poisonous. For example, that plant at the back there, Devil's Ivy, even though it's really easy to look after and grow, it is quite poisonous to people and also animals as well. So just be mindful of that. So make sure that you do your research before you buy a plant to make sure that you have suitable plants around your home. Alright, the next thing that you want to also make sure if you do get a new plant is to make sure that you quarantine that plant. If you are well aware of what's happening at the moment around the world with regards to quarantining if you are exposed to that virus, well, it's the same for our plants. Oftentimes our plants, or when we buy it from nurseries or other places, may be exposed to different pests. If you don't quarantine them, then potentially if you have other plants, then it could be spreading into your other plants as well. Quarantining your plant means that you're going to put it away in an area where there isn't much plants, but it can still thrive. I would say for about 2 weeks. For that 2-week period, you're gonna wanna check every single leaf and every single stem for any signs of pests. If you do find that there is a pest on your plant, then obviously you're gonna wanna have a bit of pest control in relation to that before you introduce that plant to your other environment where there's other plants. I'm not gonna talk about pest control in this video, but perhaps that's something I can talk about in the future as well. So jot down the comments below if you're interested to know about how to control different pests. Now the next tip I'm gonna give you guys is about joining an online forum related to PlantCare. Okay, so I've joined this online group in Facebook where there's a lot of people who have lots and lots of interests and hobbies in relation to plants. And often when I don't know how to look after a particular plant that I just bought, then usually I would just ask there in the group and there would be someone who would be answering those questions, similar to other people as well. So if you're not really familiar with looking after a particular plant, or you don't know how to identify that type of plant and what type of care to provide it, then you can always feel free to ask that forum that you have just joined in. So I'd encourage you guys to join a online community so you can get connected with those other plant lovers to actually give you guys some healthy tips on how to grow your plants. And that's about it, guys. So I've actually recently started my own Instagram page on the different collection and plants that I have. If you guys want to follow my plant Instagram page, then I will link it in the additional information down below. I hope that you guys found those tips that I provided useful. Now, if you like this video, then give me that thumbs up. Click subscribe to see more of the videos that I make. If you guys have any other comments that you would like to add or other tips for beginners out there, then please jot them down in the comments down below. Until then, I will see you guys. Goodbye and God bless.